Paddock Mall Studios. This is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
All right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Beautiful Wednesday morning. Thank you for tuning in. If you are a person who has always enjoyed theater, live theater, you know that in our area we have some pretty amazing venues and some pretty amazing shows that come through our area, as well as some that are produced in our area. Down in the Villages at the Sharon L. Morse Performing Arts Center, I have seen 3 shows down there so far, and I've been blown away every single time. And now I find out that Rent is going to be down there, so I guess I'll see my 4th show down there. Logan Marks is on the phone. He is the actor who portrays the character of Mark Cohen in the 20th anniversary tour of the rock musical Rent. Rent, by the way, is the winner of the 1996 Tony Award for Best Musical and the winner of the 1996 Pulitzer Prize for Drama. That says a lot. And I know that I saw this on a video some time ago, but I'm having a hard time conjuring it up in my mind. So I'll have to go back and refresh my mind, Robin. It's going to be at the Sharon L. Morse Performing Arts Center, and looks like it'll be there Thursday. Is it a week from tomorrow?
Yes, Thursday the 18th and Friday the 19th.
Okay, a week from tomorrow and a week from Friday at 7 o'clock each of those 2 days. Mm-hmm. Logan Marks, it's an honor to have you on our show. Good morning, Logan. How are you?
Good. I'm well. Thank you so much for having me.
And where are you? Where are you calling from?
We are currently in Sarasota, Florida.
Oh, okay. Named one of the best cities in the country this morning on U.S. News and World Report or something.
Oh, I can see why.
And where's home? Where do you call home?
I'm from just outside of Boston.
So remind me of the story in Rent. I'm having a hard time remembering it. It's been a while since I saw this.
The movie was great.
Of course, yes. Well, It takes place in the 90s during the AIDS epidemic in New York City. As the late composer Jonathan Larson puts it, Rent is about a community celebrating life in the face of death and AIDS at the turn of the century.
Yes, it's coming back. I'm sorry, I don't stop. It's just you got my mind remembering it now. But for everybody else, just keep going.
Yeah, of course. It really was a huge show. I mean, it still is, but back in the day, it was basically the Hamilton of today, because it was one of the first shows that talked openly about the AIDS epidemic, and it has openly gay and lesbian characters and interracial characters, and it really just kind of changed the face of musical theater in that sense, and also because it was one of the first shows that incorporated rock musical into the musical theater world. But it's really about these artists just struggling to survive with this disease, and with many of them being homeless in New York City, and just kind of how their love for each other and their friendship and their bond gets them through. How long have you played Mark Cohen? I've played Mark since almost a year, since the middle of May.
Oh my gosh! And you've been part of the touring group since then?
Yes.
So how is it? Do you enjoy being on the road all the time?
Oh, of course. I'm such a travel junkie addict, whatever you want to say, and it's so neat to not only get to travel the country and even the world, because we were in Japan and China at the end of last year, but to also get paid for it while doing what I love there's really nothing else like it.
So as you go around the country, if you're from Boston, a big city like Boston, I'm from New York, so I guess I can sort of kind of relate to what I'm about to say. Well, I of course can relate to what I'm going to say, but I'm hoping you can relate to it being a big city kid, if you know what I mean. I always had the impression, the wrong impression, that the best theater was going to be in the big cities. But I was absolutely wrong. I'm in a small town here. The Villages is, it's not a big town. It's a retirement community, but it's unbelievable what you're going to love at the Villages is what I'm saying.
I'm excited. Yeah, I think I know what you mean, because it's interesting how every city is very different depending on the demographic, but we have had some of the best audiences in, say, like the middle of Kansas, and a lot of it has to do with because they don't get the access to the theater that we're kind of used to from these big cities. And besides that point, sometimes shows like Rent are very important to go to cities that don't get the kind of material that Rent provides, that has the open mind about gay and lesbian relationships and the teaching effects of the AIDS epidemic. So it can mean more to the smaller cities that don't always have access to the big shows that cop that often.
Right. And do you and the cast sometimes wonder, like between yourselves, about the social commentary and whether a certain community will embrace it or not? Is that a conversation point, or has the country pretty much come on board, whether it's a small town or not?
Both. I guess we found that there are some places that we get a little nervous about that end up loving the show so much more than we could have hoped. But there are still some places that we go to and we're just curious to see how the show does there. And it's never a bad thing if it's a place that we're not sure about. It actually makes it more exciting because we're excited to get to share the message, because it's usually those places that need it the most. And there are some people there who might feel like they can't be their true selves, who we get fan messages from saying that this show coming through was the best part of their year because they felt like they could relate to someone and they got to experience something that they don't get to in their normal lives. So it tends to make it more exciting for us.
And you're a very versatile actor. I mean, you've played in productions like Newsies, Little Shop of Horrors, and also in Legally Blonde. And all three of those characters are totally different than what you are playing now also.
Yes, that's probably one of my favorite parts of my career, is that we get to play pretend. And while we all have characters that we can connect to more than others because of who we are as people, for me, one of the most exciting things is to be able to play characters that I'm not at all like, because it's fun. It's me getting to not be Logan and getting to be someone who I never would be otherwise. But then getting to play someone like Mark, for example, who I find a lot of connections with as Logan, is also exciting because it's kind of like who Logan is with some twists. And if I were, my age now, but in the 90s during a very different time period. So it's all very exciting and different.
Yeah, we were told that Rent was based on the opera La Boheme. Have you seen that?
I have not. It is based off of that, Puccini's opera, and unfortunately I've not been able to. It's actually been playing in a few cities that we've gone to, but of course we generally have shows during that time. But I definitely plan to see it at some point in the near future, because I would love to see the connections between the two.
Oh, I didn't know that either, Robin. That's interesting. Wow, and I don't think I've ever seen that one. So Robin has educated me with theater, by the way. I really hadn't seen a whole lot until like the last 2 years. Then all of a sudden, I'm catching up. I'm even catching up with the TV show Friends. I didn't even watch that. Now I'm starting to watch it. Right. So does Mark Cohen, does the character you play? I guess there are three choices here. Is it kind of is it done? Is it all right there in the script, or do you have to draw from something in your own life, or maybe a friend's life? I guess those are the three choices, or is it a kind of a mixture?
I would definitely say it's a combination of all of them. There's everything, especially with Jonathan Larson, the composer and the writer. With his writing, everything really is in what he wrote, especially music-wise. We always get notes to just go back to the text, go back to the text, go back to the text, especially when you've done a show we've now done over 200 performances, and you almost start feeling a little bit robotic. It's very comforting to know that you can just go back to the script and the work and that it's all really there for you. So in some ways it really is just laid out in front of you, but in other ways, and that's our job as actors, is to then turn that around and make it natural and make it seem like it's as authentic as possible, because our job is to play people who are supposed to seem as real as possible. So I've definitely found myself drawing from my own life and my own experiences that I incorporate into Mark's life and his experiences.
And also, each performance that you and the rest of the cast does, you have to treat it like it is the very first night. You can't just become complacent.
Exactly. That's something that is important for every actor, is that there's a saying that you have to treat, like you said, every night like it's opening night, because for that audience, unless they've come back many times, it really is their opening night. Thankfully, on tour, I find that it's not that challenging because every venue and every audience really is very different and has a very different energy to it that makes it easier to have an excitement for us. But it is, again, part of the job where you're doing a long-running show to keep it fresh and keep it new.
And Rent is very inspirational for the creativity of it because each of the characters has something that they have to offer, and they've got to make sure to forget about the naysayers and just follow their heart and passion.
Yes, exactly. And we all kind of rely on each other for that as well. We lift each other up if that person needs it, and then we're just kind of there to. We really are a team, and we're very lucky that our specific cast is very close, and we love the show. It's such a special show for all of us that it's very easy to support each other on and off the stage.
So I've never seen Rent done live, but I have seen, I think, the live version on video, right? That's what we watched,
yes.
Robin? And after we watched it, we also watched something on Jonathan Larson's life, and knowing what we found out after the fact, because we didn't know that he had died young, and we didn't know. Did he die before the play ever was on stage? I can't remember.
He died at the very first preview. So he was in the whole rehearsal process, but he absolutely did not get to see the success that it later would have. He didn't even know that it transferred to Broadway.
So all of a sudden, we wanted to see it again because all of a sudden we kind of realized what he was writing or why he was writing.
Yeah, it's funny because he didn't have anything really before Rent. He wrote a little show called Tick, Tick, Boom, which is decently well known in the musical theater world today, but nowhere near, it doesn't have the success that Rent has had. But he really was a brand new composer, and he was just kind of his own person with his own ideas, and thankfully he had some people believe in him that really made Rent blow up.
Right.
But we like to say that Rent is always in like its preview version, because after Jonathan Larson passed away, the director Michael Greif and the creative team didn't want to change the show anymore because they didn't want to change or add or take away anything without knowing if Jonathan would have approved of it. So the show is, I think what's so special about the show is that in many ways it's kind of unfinished because they didn't want to change anything without him. So there are some things that maybe don't make the most sense in the show, or some things that you really need to think about to understand where they're coming from, because maybe later on, had Jonathan stayed alive, things would have been explained more or changed. So it makes it kind of exciting because that is what art is. You know, it's never, right. Is it ever really finished and such.
And even though all cultures are different, the message of Rent really hits home to people everywhere.
Absolutely. That's, I think, one of my favorite parts about the show, and sometimes I feel like it's said a lot, but I feel like Rent, for the most part, really is a timeless piece, because even though we're very lucky that the AIDS epidemic is nowhere near as bad as it was back in the 90s, not only is it still a disease that exists, but you can relate it to other illnesses like cancer terminal or not terminal illnesses. But what I think the main two messages of the show are to measure your life in love, like one of the most famous songs, Seasons of Love, says, and to live like there's no day but today. And regardless of if you're sick or if you're not, or if you're old or young, those messages can be applied to whoever, whenever.
Are you able to do something fun during your day too, even though you're dedicated to the touring company and you go from place to place?
Yeah, if we're not called for rehearsal, or we don't have two shows where, again, we only have a show at night, we are free to do whatever we want. So we get to explore, and we can, as long as obviously we're safe and smart about it, we can do whatever we'd like.
On the phone with us is Logan Marks. He will be in our area a week from tomorrow and a week from Friday. He'll be down in the Villages. He is part of the cast of Rent, which is celebrating its 20th anniversary, and he plays Mark Cohen. The musical Rent is being performed at the Sharon L. Morris Performing Arts Center. If you don't know where that is, it's at 1051 Main Street in the Villages. I believe it's the building that used to be a church, Robin, am I right?
Uh-huh.
It's a beautiful beautiful theater, and it sort of looks like a church from the outside. But if you go in there, you're going to be amazed how big it actually is on the inside. Do we have tickets to give away?
Yes, we do. We have one pair of tickets to give away for the 18th performance, and one pair to give away for the 19th performance. And it's a special performance on the 19th because that is where the sign language interpretation will be available.
Oh, wow.
And that's pretty amazing, too.
Have you had that before, Logan?
Yes, we have had it quite a bit, which I absolutely love. And to be honest, I find that I have to keep myself in line because I always get distracted and I stare at them because I'm so amazed at what they can do, especially with our show, because a lot of our show is done very fast. And the fact that they can just keep up and do it also flawlessly, and that we're able to bring our message to people who might not otherwise be able to understand it is so special for us.
So, Logan, I'm going to go back to something you said earlier because I was wondering about it. You said that Rent was one of the first rock musicals, and I was going back to my childhood, just so you know, I'm old. So Hair, I remember Hair was the musical that was from the 60s that I just fell in love with that musical. Do you remember Hair?
Yes, I actually was in it my senior year of college.
Were you? Okay. So is there a reason why you consider Rent the first rock musical?
Well, I guess I feel like the two are slightly... Well, rock is rock. I feel like there's also many different types of rock. And I think Rent is a little more of like the... I don't want to say metal rock because that makes it sound very, like, dramatic. But it's... I feel like when I hear Rent, it's not like I don't think of the music of Hair. I feel like Hair is definitely more about the 60s and like the Woodstock times, where Rent
right,
is more about like the, again, not to say like the heavy metal bands, but I just feel like it's slightly a different type of show.
So from a musical perspective, well, but they both have social commentary. I think that's part of what makes me think one after the other. Hair is the musical that made me interested in this whole genre called rock opera, which I don't even know if they use that term anymore, but and some of them
do, yes.
And some of them didn't even make it to the stage, right? Some of them were just on album, right? Like, Tommy made it to the stage, didn't it? Or no? Or made it to the stage?
Yes, Tommy's. It's been staged, but sometimes it does take. It takes not longer for it to come to the stage, but it takes someone who has the vision to turn an album or whatnot into a staged musical.
So what do you listen to when you're on the road? You're traveling. What kind of music are you listening to?
It depends. It depends on, I guess, my mood. When I'm at the gym, I try not to listen to musical theater because as much as I love it, it is my job, and I like to remind myself that I'm still a normal human being in society, and that it's important to listen to other music and genres. I do love like pop and R&B, but there are also there's a show on Broadway right now that's also touring called Come From Away that I'm very obsessed with, so I find myself often listening to that. And usually when there's new shows, like when Hamilton first came out, I listened to that nonstop, and it's it just varies, but mainly I listen to the musical theater albums, then pop and R&B.
Yeah, and I think Hamilton's coming to our area too, not too long from. Do you know when it is?
I don't know. I don't know.
That's on my bucket list. That's on my list too. I don't want to say bucket list, but that's on my list too.
Did you have your heart set on the Mark Cohen character when you tried out?
Yeah, that's a tricky one because I actually did not know Rent very well during my first audition. I did know a little bit about the characters, and I knew that out of all of them, I could relate the most to Mark, but also, as a lot of actors do, I never really try to pick a role or get my heart set on something because a lot of our career is not getting the role, so it's kind of important to not have your heart drastically set on something because then when you don't get it, you don't have as much disappointment. But I was very excited about the possibility of Mark, and actually I had about 5 or 6 auditions, and initially I was told I would be in the ensemble, or I was being looked at to be in the ensemble while understudying the role of Mark, and even that was exciting because any opportunity is an amazing opportunity. But then when I got the role of Mark is when I was the most excited because I was thrilled to be able to play such an iconic character who has so much to do with the storytelling of the show.
Okay, Robin has some tickets she's going to give away. Before we give away the tickets, do you have information, Robin, on how to buy the tickets?
Yes, you need to go to the Sharon L. Morris Performing Arts Center website. It's thesharon.com, or else you can call the box office at 352 area code 751-7799. And the Sharon L. Morris Performing Arts Center is located 1051 Main Street in the Villages.
Okay, now in order to give them away, do we have the physical tickets, or do you need phone numbers?
No, I will need the person's name and their phone number, but what will happen with the tickets, we will have their name on them. They will be at the will call window at the Sharon itself on each night of the performance.
Okay, so because of that, I don't want to ask people to call until we're at the very end of our conversation with Logan. So give me about 4 more minutes, and then I'll go ahead and open up the phone lines. Logan, it's been an honor to have you on our show. What's next for you after Rent? Do you know?
I don't know. That's another part of our fun career, is that you're kind of just back to. I currently live in New York. Well, not currently because I'm on tour, but I moved to New York last year, so that's my new home base. So I'll be back there and auditioning again, and hopefully something will come up from it. That's kind of all we can hope as actors, is that you keep growing and you keep moving up to the next experience.
Nice.
In all of the theater that you've done so far, what is your most favorite role that you portrayed?
Gosh, well, I guess there's a tie between, I love Mark. I feel like I've never done a show for this long and at this level, so it's meant so much to me in so many different ways, and the stuff I've been able to do while being on tour and while playing this role has been life-changing for me. So Mark will always be one of my favorites, but I also really I've played Emmett Forrest in Legally Blonde a couple times, and I love him as a role, and I love that show as well. So I'd have to say it's a tie between those two.
Oh, excellent. I love that. I love them both.
Legally Blonde, was that a stage show too?
I guess so, because we saw the movie, but Emmett, I think, is her boyfriend, right?
He's the one that she ends
up with. He's
the nerdy
he's the
one.
Good guy. Yeah, he's the good guy.
All right, let's see. The whole time we're doing this conversation on the video streaming of this broadcast on the YouTube part of what we do, I have a photo of you. I hope that's you. I went to Google and I Googled your name in Rent, and it looks like you. You got a blue and white scarf and a purple and light blue sweater. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, that's the costume.
Okay. All right. And you look like a professor in a way. You got the glasses going on there. Logan, thank you so much for being on the air with us. For everybody else, don't miss this one. It's only going to be in our area for 2 days, next Thursday and next Friday at 7 p.m. down in the Villages at the Sharon L. Morris Performing Arts Center. And congratulations to the Villages for bringing some really great shows to all of us. So it's
fabulous.
Logan, it sounds like you're in a good group, and be careful out there on the road. Thank you for being on the air with us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And after I say goodbye to Logan, the rest of you go ahead, call up 622-9622. Robin will talk to you and get you set up with tickets. If we do not answer the phone, that means you did not win. We'll only answer the phone twice. Thank you, Logan.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back.
Freddy's Specialty Sundaes, classic American treats, made with freshly churned, rich and creamy frozen custard. Welcome to Freddy's Frozen Custard and Steak Burgers, the taste that brings you back.
So now that you have your heart set on Freddy's, all you need to know is how to get there. That part is easy. Just go down Highway 200 in Ocala east of I-75. Then look for the giant frozen custard cone on the wall.
Hello, I'm Pastor David Moore of Grandview Baptist Church. You are invited to join us Sunday morning at 10:05 on WOCA. Let us together hear and feel the words that uplift and not tear down. I look forward to you joining us with Grandview Baptist Church this Sunday morning at 10:05.